and welcome to Climate Fact File, your go-to program for clear insights and actionable solutions on climate change and its impact on our world. I am Ife Onyekwere, and I'll be your host and guide on this journey to understanding the challenges we face and the opportunities we also have to create a sustainable future. Now, like I always say, climate change is not just a challenge. It's also an opportunity for us to rethink, how we live, what we do, and how we pay attention to even the environment, And of course, I won't be doing this alone. I have an amazing guest in the studio. I have Barrister Okoroafor Okechukwu here in the studio with us, and he is the Director, Legal Services and Focal Person on Climate Change, Nigerian Union of Teachers. Great to have you in the studio today, Barrister.
Good morning. It's also my pleasure being here with you.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, if you're listening to us, this is People's 105.5 FM, and we'll be discussing building a climate-literate system. Building a climate-literate system. Have you heard anything about climate change? No. Let's really, talk about this, because if we have to, bring people into taking climate action, then there needs to be an understanding. What have you heard about climate change? Okay, so at some point in the conversation, I'm going to, give you the opportunity to call in and let's hear from you. Let's know how well you've actually, come to the realization of what's going on around us, or what's this thing about climate change, or the level of knowledge or the level of understanding you've actually had about climate change. I'll go on a short break right now, but when I come back, we're going to be going straight to Climate Countdown, where we move into the most urgent and impactful news around climate change in our country, okay? So sit back, relax. This is People's 105.5 FM.
The climate is changing, and so should we. Climate Fact File, your weekly dose of awareness, action, and answers. Wednesday, 11 a.m. on your favorite radio station, People's 105.5 FM, Abuja.
All right, now it's time for Climate Countdown. Expert warns of 2050 disappearance of Niger Delta coastal communities. Expert warn against exclusion of workers in climate change policies. And we also have expert warning, of cement innovation that is the key to combating climate change. Environmental experts under the Academic Associates Peace Works, AAPW, have warned that many coastal communities in the Niger Delta risk vanishing by 2050 if environmental protection laws remain unenforced. At a workshop in Port Harcourt titled Conflicts in Coastal Communities, Dr. Judith Asuni and Mrs. Nkoyo Toyo highlighted the devastating impacts of climate change, including rising sea levels, displacement, and resource conflicts. They blamed unregulated oil company activities and weak enforcement of environmental laws for worsening the crisis. The Academic Associates Peace Works called for urgent collaborative action involving government, community leaders, and security agencies to safeguard fragile coastal ecosystems and prevent future conflict of climate change. The Nigerian Labour Congress has called on the federal government to act to include critical voices such as trade unions, women, youth, and persons with disability in national climate change policy. The NLC General Secretary, Emmanuel Uwaja, made the call during a post-COP29 review meeting held in Abuja on the 23rd to 25th of April 2025. He noted that excluding these groups perpetuates climate injustice and undermines the Just Transition Work Program. Supported by the International Labour Organization, ILO, the meeting also stressed the need for trade unions to be central to climate action and policy formulation. The Society for Cement and Concrete Researchers in Nigeria has urged the adoption of limestone calcined clay cement, LC3, as a climate-friendly alternative to conventional cement. At the LC3 Day Day Nigeria event in Abuja, researchers highlighted that the LC3 significantly reduces carbon emissions linked to high temperature cement production. Professor Azikiwe Onwalu and other experts emphasized that switching to limestone calcined clay cement is critical for environmental protection and aligns with global climate goals. The group called on the government to support the LC3 to drive green innovation and secure carbon credit benefits in Nigeria. And that's it on Climate Countdown. Now we have an amazing guest in the studio who we want to react to any of the news. So which of it caught your attention and which do you want to attend to?
My sister, it's difficult to say exactly which one that caught my attention the most.
Okay.
Reason being that all of them are climate issues.
That's right.
And none can be said to be superior to the other.
That's
because
right.
Once there's a disequilibrium in one aspect of the climate, it has a tippling effect. You know, it touches the other, and before you know it, the entire system is gone the wrong way, and no longer what it used to be. God created this earth to be a very beautiful place for you and I. Can you imagine the trees? The wonderful
beautiful
trees, fruit-bearing trees, and those of them that don't bear trees, don't bear fruits, they are good for timber, they are good for arts and crafts,
yes.
They give shade.
True.
Can you imagine when the sun is too much? At times you will no longer be interested or comfortable with the air conditioner.
Honestly,
you want to have a touch of a natural air,
yes.
natural breeze. And when the sun is high, as it is these days, you go under the trees and have a shade. So all of them, God created them for a purpose, and they work symbiotically in the ecosystem.
True.
So the group that raised the issue of rising sea level. Yes, global warming. Once global warming and issues of climate, they have no territorial boundary. They are not involved in geopolitics. The forces of nature pull them from high to low. Like, nature abhors vacuum. You see wind that originates in the tropic, militating towards the poles. And once the hot air goes to the poles, touching the icebergs, and you see them melting. And as they are melting into the sea. And the sea also has no boundary. Pacific to Atlantic, and until you get it beside your house in Yenagoa or in the creeks of Port Harcourt,
yes.
or in the coastal lines. So you see the sea level is rising. So they are interconnected. Is it the cement, the pollution associated with cement? And I think the best thing for our policymakers is to adhere to the instruction or the advice of experts. If we do that, we will not go the wrong way.
Yes.
The Bible says wisdom is the principal thing, but in all you're getting, get understanding. So I hope that we should not just be wise, but we should also have understanding.
Great. Thank you so much for that contribution. If you're listening to us, this is People's 105.5 FM, and you just heard the voice of Barrister Okoroafor Okechukwu, who is the direct. The way I called your name, did it sound like I'm actually like... I called you like it's an English name. I'm judging myself.
I thought you were even calling it as somebody from Uburu, my hometown.
Really? Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear, actually. Great. So you just heard the voice of Barrister Okoroafor Okechukwu, and he is the Director of Legal Services and focal person on climate change, Nigerian Union of Teachers. You see, so we have a barrister combined with an educator. That's powerful.
Yes. But that's what it should be. Lawyers educate also.
That's great.
Yes, they educate. And if anybody wants to know whether lawyers educate, he should commit an offense and then, or at least go to court and listen to lawyers argue cases. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, true. All right. And so we have our topic before us today, building a climate-literate system. I think we should go straight to the conversation now. I would want to ask, why is a climate-literate system important for the Nigerian educator sector in the times that we are right now?
Yes, you see, my dear sister, it should not just be important to the Nigerian education system, because issues of climate change are multidisciplinary. It affects the humanities. It cuts across science, humanities, arts, and what have you. Nobody is excluded. No branch of studies should be excluded. But narrowing it down to the education system, education is the main aim of education is just socialization.
That's right.
That the process by which the culture of a given society is transmitted to the younger generation. And it is expected to go that way in a cyclic order. Father, mother, parents educate their children will grow up to become parents, they educate their own offsprings, and even grandmothers and grandfathers, they will also contribute in educating. So it's in a cycle, it's an endless process. So the education system, honestly, is the sure vehicle by which the knowledge of the climate, the cause, its effect, and its outcome, the impact, is transmitted to the younger one, the younger generation. So the education system should have deliberate measures, deliberate attempt to transmit or lead the younger minds to or be sensitive to changes and sensitive and observe things happening in their environment and then adjust to it. Something like that. So the education system now, as you teach them 1, 2, 3, issues of climate change is as basic as reading and writing. It's as basic as reading and writing. It is it's either we swim or we sink. If we are insensitive to issues of climate change, it means we are bound to sink. No matter how rich you are, the impact of climate does not respect any person. It's no respecter of persons. Doesn't want to know your political office, whether you're a legislator, whether you're in the presidency, whether you're a cleaner, whether you're a bishop, whether you are the pope, or whether you are an imam. The climate does not want to know. So because its impact has a faceless impact, so it is time that the education system in Nigeria should take deliberate measures through the National Educational Research and Development Council, NERDC, to include a planned and sequential climate education for our children from pre-primary to the university. Honestly, I do feel...
listening to you, it's actually quite encouraging, and it's something that is doable. And, there is set of people who feel like, okay, we can classify them into people who are who deny these things. They say, oh, it's not for us here in Nigeria. I needed to address this set of people who are still in this set of climate denial.
Yes.
Oh, it's not happening. It's not around us. It's for the West. It's for some people. A lot of people are listening right now. How do you address people who are in climate denial?
I think anybody in climate denial is merely in a delusion, living a life of delusion, or refusing to accept the obvious.
Great.
Yes. My last trip to my home state, Ebonyi, I saw children around 11 a.m. greeting me. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Some people were saying, is it afternoon? I said, don't worry. My son, once there is good in it, I appreciate it. But you now know that some people, especially children, tell time by the weather.
Yes.
By the weather. So the intensity of the sun around 11 o'clock is now as intensive as it used to be around 1 and 2 p.m. So the child telling you good afternoon, sir, around 10, 11 in the morning, you know now that child is not making any mistake. Yes, so to say. So,
wow.
Yeah.
This is great. Now, okay, on the part of curriculum, which is something that, I think people, there have been a lot of conversations around it. If we need to put out this to be clear, the way this generation is actually going, you can see a child walk up to you and say, you're not supposed to make this statement this way. You're supposed to do it like this and like this. And so I begin to imagine if children are being taught about this. I really can't say where and where because I'm not an educationist, but I can't say probably at the tertiary or whatever. But I know that if this somehow comes into the school curriculum, there could actually be a positive, effect to what we're actually pushing towards. So now the question is, how can we integrate climate change education into Nigeria's school curriculum without overwhelming teachers and students? Because we also need to bear at heart teachers themselves.
Yes. Okay. Let me take it from two dimensions. First of all, the teacher.
Okay.
Yes. The advocacy of NUT has been that the kind of teachers, the type of teachers, the quality of teachers that we have today is as a result of the curriculum of the teacher training institutions. How they are trained, input, throughput, output. If you want to have space engineering teachers, you train them along that line. Teach them topics and skills that will turn out space experts. If you want them to be interested, if you want them to produce children that will be sensitive to the climate and the changes in our environment that as a result of climate, then you have to infuse climate curriculum into the teacher training institutions so that, in law we say, nemo dot what non habet. You cannot give what you don't have. So it is the skills that they acquire in the teacher training institution that gives them the capacity and the enablement to handle climate change topics when they now are hired as teachers in our schools, be it pre-primary, be it primary, be it secondary or university, as the case may be. So what I'm saying is that the capacity of the teacher should be taken into consideration. The curriculum of colleges of education, the curriculum of the faculties of education in the universities should have deliberate plan of climate change.
Regardless of the sector.
Regardless of the
arts,
sector.
Science, commercial, and
yes, I am of the opinion, and that is the opinion of the NUT, that climate studies should be made a GST course.
Great.
In our tertiary institutions, so that nobody will have any reason to say weather, what is weather? Greenhouse gases, what is greenhouse? What are greenhouse gases? Then carbon sequestration, what does it mean? It won't sound Greek to them. Then rising sea level, it won't be strange to them.
Yeah.
So if it is made a GST course, even if it is going to be 0 credit, but you must pass it. You must pass it. At least you earn a pass in climate change studies before you graduate from any Nigerian tertiary institution. If that is done, that will be one deliberate approach.
Great.
Then it should also be in the curriculum of the learner. Education is child-centered, and any topic or any education, any skill which you are giving to a learner, which is not going to play any role, it must have functionality. There must be a problem that it should be able to solve.
Yes.
So once learners are very curious. Children are very, very curious.
That's right.
That is why if you enter a house, the children, the first thing they will rush for is your phone. They will be curious to see what the characters they've been imagining or they'll be hearing of, or they already know, to see what else they are going to come up with. So the curiosity is high in children, and that facilitates learning because the zeal and curiosity drives learning. So if we catch them young, you see by tomorrow in the future we'll have a very climate compliant army of children across Nigeria.
Great. That contribution was massive, straight to the point, and it really hit. So I want to, if you're listening to us right now, I want to hear from you. So the question is, at what level should climate change be taught in schools? Would love to hear from you, want to hear your opinion. What do you think, or when do you think climate education should actually be released to people out there? Or probably if you think it needs to be taught at all levels, let's hear from you. The number to call is 0911-222-1055. I call that again, 0911-222-1055. I'm opening the phone lines. You can call in. You can also call us on 0704-800-1055. At what level should climate change be taught in schools, primary, secondary, or tertiary institutions, and why do you think so? All right. So, Barrister, in your view, I want you've actually given some highlights on this, but now for climate action, a lot of people are doing, you have climate champions, you have people I've had people come on the show who turn plastic waste into tangible materials, people who turn waste tires into something great, just to ensure that recycling and a circular economy is actually being maintained. And they're actually doing so well for the climate action work. Now, in what role do you think teachers play in fostering a climate literate society? What is the key role of teachers? Because there are teachers who are listening now and feel like, okay, people can actually go online and see these things now, or you need to speak to them. What role do you think teachers actually play in fostering climate literate society?
The role of teachers, their roles are enormous. First of all, behavioral change. Behavioral change. Learning by example. Like in your school, do you have a waste bin basket in your classroom? And if you have a waste bin basket, do you separate degradables from non-degradables? Like, we'll come to that later on. If we do not take time, if our country does not take a deliberate measure, plastic will overrun us. You cannot, science has proven already that in the water we drink, there are granules of plastics in them. So, and that is why people are coming down with all manner of diseases. But that aside, in the classroom, a good teacher is a teacher that leads by example.
That's right.
And in the primary school, children learn most by either games way method or activity method. So if in a classroom you create an environmental friendly classroom, there should be a refuse disposal basket or bin. Then make sure that the degradables are converted to manure. You take them, that same degradable that you harvest from your class, lead the same children in your lessons in agriculture to create a compost. The oranges they leak, the apples, the residue of apple they take, the granite peelings, the banana peelings, and all those things that, children, or even remains, leftover food that they eat at school. You now dig a place, create a compost manure. And these same children who produce these waste, you now lead them by practical measures to create a compost manure, compost point. Then that same compost will be used in growing vegetables. And I assure you, anything the teacher leads a child to do, that child will never forget it. And once he gets home, he will want to repeat it. He will want to do it. And, practice makes perfect. So, and I think in the issue of climate change, it should be started as soon as a child is born. As soon as a child is born. Because if a child eats and there's a residue and he drops it anywhere, anyhow, you tell, hey, baby, come, Junior, go and put it in the waste bin. He will now pick it himself and drop it in the waste bin. Another day, he drops it carelessly, you caution him and compel him, don't pick it for him, compel him to pick it himself or herself and drop into the waste bin. It is said that character is like cobweb when being formed. But when formed, it becomes cable. And the Bible says, bring up a child in the way you want him to live. When he grows up, he will not depart from it. Very practical. So start as soon as they are born.
Great. This is actually, there was a question I asked the audience, and I think you've already given your own insight to that.
Well, they are free to give their own view.
That's okay. So if you agree with my guest that climate change should be taught in primary schools, or secondary or tertiary, depending on what yours is, I'd love to hear from you. So the question is, at what level should climate change be taught in schools schools in Nigeria. When do you think climate change education should be taught in schools? Yeah, you don't need to be a teacher to answer this question, but based on what is going on around us, based on the conversations around climate change, let's hear your opinion. And probably you're an adult and you really have no knowledge about this, and you may want to say, if you were taught in secondary school or if you were taught in primary school, you would have, done one or two things. So let's hear your contribution. At what level should climate change be taught in schools, primary, secondary, or tertiary institutions? The number to call is 0911 222 1055. I take that again, 0911 222 1055. You can also call us on 0704 800 1055. So at what level should climate change be taught in schools? Is it at the primary, is it at the secondary, or the tertiary institutions, or why? Or probably at all level. Would love to hear from you. We will go on a music break right now, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation.
It's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? I can see all the harvest is ready, 'cause he told me so. It's green and it's all mine. As the clouds go gray, the thunder roars and the earth sings. The season's just beginning. Sunlight it hides as the clouds make way for the pouring of my blessings. I will not be afraid. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance in the rain. It's for my seed to grow. For every prayer and every seed I've sown, the Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping back 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. It's green for me. Standing alone can be a heavy load, but my vows I won't be breaking. Though my heart is aching, I got a word and I won't let go. It's your will I'm seeking, so I keep on believing. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance. Once again, it's time for me to grow. For every prayer and every tear I've sown, the Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping joy 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me. I thought it was over, thought you were done with me, but we're just beginning. Whoa, my life is a journey. I will walk with you, I will go where you want me to. Yes, I will go. Come on.
Yeah, that was The Land is Green, and that's what we're advocating for, green land. Yeah, I personally love this song, and I've been looking for songs like this, talking about Greenland, just in case, just Let me know. All right, you're listening to People's 105.5 FM. Abuja, and it's all about you. It's all about you, and that's why we're bringing you gist about climate change. We're discussing about building a climate-literate system, and we have an amazing guest in the studio who is actually doing justice to this. He is the Director, Legal Services and Focal Person on Climate Change of the Nigerian Union of Teachers. And we've been doing justice to the topic before us, and I've also opened the phone lines for those of us who want to make contribution. Let's know what you think. At what level do you think climate change should be taught or should be introduced in schools, either private schools, either public schools, the schools that your children go to? Do you really think these people should actually have a knowledge of climate change at certain levels? Let's get to hear from you. The number to call is 0911-222-1055. And you can also reach out on 0704 800 1055. All right, now looking at let's go back to this interesting conversation. Now looking at the educational sector, are there challenges we feel like Nigerian educators may face when attempting to teach climate change and environmental sustainability? Looking at the way our school system is, you think there are challenges that these people might actually, may actually face, and probably some of them are already dodging it? Don't add climate change to the curriculum, please. I already have a lot on my plate, so statements like that, can actually come when there are actually challenges or fears from these people. So do you think there could be anything that could cause situations as that?
I think some of the problems, there's no area in life that there won't be challenges. And there's nothing you want to do that you wouldn't have some hurdles to cross. In teaching of climate change, definitely there are some hurdles. One, resource materials. And training, the capacity. Like if a teacher didn't offer geography, he didn't offer social studies, or that the areas he covered in these subjects does not cover the topics that are before him, it becomes an uphill task. But presently, the federal government has launched an e-learning portal, which if you have the devices, at least an Android phone,
yes,
you can click. But even if you have an Android phone and you don't have money to buy data, what do? And today in Nigeria, the salaries of teachers isn't anything to write home about. Whereas in developed climes and among the Asian tigers, teachers are the best paid. Teachers should be the best paid,
which is very
in the country.
Towards,
yes, because if a teacher is poorly paid, he won't even have that desire to fill the knowledge gap and to fill the gap in your stomach. Which one will you address first? In Maslow's theory of need, you must have been able to satisfy a lower order need before you can now be stable to satisfy a higher order need. And the issue of learning capacity is a higher order need. Yes, it's a higher order need beyond above physiological needs. So the impact of the economy on teachers, the wage level of the teachers in Nigeria is a factor that is hindering teaching and learning. So which I think the government has to do, and employers of teachers have to do a deliberate measure to improve it, so that the overall effect will be seen in the quality of teaching and in the character modification, behavior modification that you get among the students and the learners. So, like I said, finance is a problem. I've mentioned buying data, poor network.
Especially for those
poor network, yes,
rural communities.
Yes. Once that you leave Abuja and you go into the States, you'll be wondering whether something is wrong with your phone. But once you come back to Abuja, where the network signal is good, then you will start having value for the data you've purchased. So, and apart from that, power supply is also a hindrance. power supply is a hindrance, because for you to make use of ICT devices to teach, you have to charge your devices. You charge your laptop, you charge your Android phone, you charge your tab. But when there's no power, electric power is also an issue. And if I'm to advise the Nigerian government, my opinion is that we have abundance of sunlight in Nigeria. So transition to clean energy shouldn't be an issue. Solar panels, solar devices should be made duty-free so that affordability will be easier.
Great.
The tax that should have been, the tariff that would have been imposed on solar and clean energy devices should rather be imposed on fossil fuel devices.
Yes.
Importation of fossil fuel cars.
As well, yeah,
importation
exactly.
of fossil fuel machines and generators. What do we need generators for God's sake? Electric generators, for God's sake. If not, except the interest of the policymakers is to favor those who import generators, fuel-based and internal combustion generators. So in place of it, clean energy should quickly take over from them, so that even if you're in the remotest village in Nigeria, you use your solar panel, no matter how small it is, to charge your phone, charge your tab, charge your laptop, and then be able to apply it in your classroom. So there are a lot of factors militating against the performance of the teacher. And again, like I've said before, training of the teacher. There should be a mandatory continuous training of the teacher, so that the knowledge gap of the teacher in the issues of climate change will be narrowed and filled. Our teachers are great if only they are given the enabling environment. I assure you, my dear sister, that Nigeria will be best for it.
Okay, Doreen sent a message. Doreen is in Abuja here. So she sent a message. She said, I agree with the doctor. He's not a doctor. He's actually a barrister.
Yes.
Are you?
When people look at me, they think I'm a doctor. Maybe I have to go and read medicine.
Right,
well, he didn't say medical doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I believe she meant educational doctor. Yeah. She said, I agree with him that climate change needs to be made a GST subject in schools, because some people like me would not be able to get access if it's only for the sciences. All right, so I feel like if it's exactly because it's only probably people who are in environmental sciences.
Yes, that should be exposed to climate change. So issues of climate change, it does not discriminate. So it's a multidisciplinary field. So it should not be left for people in the sciences, because if you cut down the tree in your house, the oxygen that the tree gives you and takes in carbon dioxide from you will be lost. And if you cut down the tree, and that tree that used to give you shade, once the tree is cut down, if you come close to that tree, you will feel warmer temperature around it because of the carbon dioxide emission that the tree is giving out. That because the trees are our carbon sink. Nature's carbon sink.
Yes.
So they trap in, as they take in carbon dioxide, they trap them. And when they are trapping them, they are giving you oxygen. So, in fact, my dear sister, everybody should know it. If you are knowledgeable, at least basic knowledge of climate change, you plant trees around your house. Exactly. I lead a campaign, and my campaign is Save the Trees campaign initiatives.
Amazing.
Yes, Save the Trees campaign initiatives. To be honest,
it was even one of the reasons that made me come into Abuja. Someone who stays in Lagos, like I've stayed in Lagos all my life, and I just came to Abuja for like holiday leave, office leave, and I told myself, I said, I'm not going back.
Oh, wow.
It was because of the trees, and there was just a breath of fresh air.
And you know, once you're sitting under the trees, you see the birds of all species hovering around the tree.
It's beautiful and then also impactful to the health, and these are things that, and at that point, I didn't even have so much knowledge of what this was all about.
Yes.
But if we understand the impact, if we understand what exactly these things are actually beautiful for us as a people, I believe lots of people will begin to put towards efforts in ensuring that I need to even if you cannot plant a tree, at least collaborate with someone, which is the next question.
There's nobody who cannot plant a tree. You see, let me tell you, my dear sister, Nigeria, I've traveled to some countries. Nigeria is among the most blessed country in this world. Nigeria is the only place you see cocoyam growing in the dustbin. Nigeria is the only place you see pawpaw growing in the dustbin.
You're right.
Nigeria is the only place you see rice growing in the gutter. Rice seedling that fell off grows in the gutter. But there are some countries that if you don't create artificial rain, farmers won't farm.
Wow. We're blessed.
But the issue is, why are we still hungry? Why are we still hungry?
Wow. So there's
Bob Marley says, in the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty.
Great. I want us to talk about this collaboration, because in the last SDG it talks about partnership for the goal. Yeah. And fortunately, even
goal 17.
Yes, goal 17. Now, how can people, individuals? Because I believe that there are people who might have this. You've been listening to Climate Fact File for a while. You've been seeing some of these things around climate change online, on LinkedIn, or so many social media space, and they might want to take an action. But they are wondering, where do I start from? Where does collaboration come in place to ensure that we build a climate-literate education system in Nigeria?
Let me say that all hands must be on deck.
Great.
The government has a role to play. NGOs and civil societies have roles to play. Individuals like you and I have roles to play. Children, adults have roles to play. Community leaders, stakeholders of diverse form, they have roles to play. To be honest to you, my dear sister, you know that climate impact is felt everywhere, especially in the communities.
That's right.
Workers are worst hit in climate issues. Why do I say so? In fact, climate change is a workers-oriented problem. Because in the economy, if you are not a consumer, you are a producer.
That's right.
And once you are involved in production of goods and services, you are a worker. And if you check, if you're not an employee, you are an employer. When we talk of, in the Nigerian Labour Congress, when we talk of workers, third-party listeners think of people who work in the ministries. No. Anybody engaged in the productive process in the economy is a worker. Whether he or she is in the formal or informal economy, he is a worker. And if you're not an employer, you are an employee. And check the ratio of employers to employee. You see that employers in Nigeria may not be up to 10%. Then the other 90% of 220 million or thereabout are workers.
Yes.
Now, come to it. In the mines, the people, workers live close to the mines for proximity from home to their place of work.
That's right.
In South Africa, in the shanties and squallows, most towns began to develop around the mines where gold, coal, and the rest of solid minerals are mined. Then if you see, go back to history, take back the memory lane, you see in Jos, where the tin mine is there, you see settlements of workers, quarters of miners around the tin mine. So anything that has to do with mining, has to do with agriculture, has to do with transportation, has to do with shipping, has to do with aviation, these things, workers are most impacted in the issues of climate change. In fact, climate change is a workplace issue and is also an issue of livelihood.
Great. And
that is why in the NDC 3.0, which the federal government is graciously developing. In fact, kudos to the government of Nigeria, having developed the first NDC, nationally determined contribution in climate change mitigation. So the NDC, we've done NDC in 2015, NDC 1, 2020, NDC 2, 2025. Our NDC 3.0 is due. We are at the organized labor, the Nigerian Labour Congress, is of the opinion that the voices of workers, the interest of workers, the well-being and livelihood of workers should be captured into the NDC, because without workers who turn the wheels, there will be no production. And without production, the economy will grind to a halt. And do you kill the geese that lays the golden egg? The answer should be no.
Yes.
The welfare, in fact, the welfare and the unhampered livelihood of workers of Nigeria will determine the quantum of productivity. Even if you say robots will do it, is it not man that will be supervising that robot? And any man who will supervise the robot or who will operate the robot, they are workers.
Really, all hands really
all hands has to be on deck. And the issues of climate change is in the community. We say in mitigation, we say that mitigation and adaptation is community-based, is location-based. Because the climate change, negative climate change impact in Borno State, in Maiduguri, cannot be the same with Bayelsa.
Yes.
Bayelsa will be complaining of intrusion of salt water into the freshwater area, impacting on the mangrove forest, impacting on fishing. You know, some fishes that are naturally, who have the freshwaters as their habitat. As the salt water from the sea is coming into the freshwater zone, now those fishes will be dying off because they are not used to salty water. And because of that, they daily catch a harvest of fish from the water of fishermen will decline. It becomes an issue to them. But the farmer in Maiduguri is worried, or in the Sahel region of Nigeria, in the Guinea savannah, they are worried because of desert encroachment. Yes, and some of these climate change, causes of climate change is anthropogenic, meaning caused by man, whereas some others are natural. Falling of trees in Bauchi, in Jigawa, in Kano, and all this.
Man-made.
And man-made.
Yes.
And that is desertification.
Yes.
So I use this opportunity to say, for every tree you're about to cut down, plant another species and watch it grow before you cut.
Amazing. All right, so it's time to turn the spotlight on additional voices in the fight against climate change. And it's in this segment we hear from key stakeholders, leaders, experts, and activists to add to the voice that we already have in the studio to share their perspective on pressing issues of climate change, from international organizations to grassroots movements. We're bringing you sound bites that are shaping policies, inspiring action, and mobilizing communities' action towards a more sustainable future. So right about now, we're going to hear the voice of the Chairman, Senate Committee on Ecology and Climate Change, Senator Saraki Dixon. We'll be right back.
The climate crisis, no longer looming threat, but a present and undeniable danger, inflicting devastation upon our nation. Its merciless assault is evident nationwide, from the relentless surge of sea levels threatening our coastal communities to the crippling droughts and ignite farmer-herder conflicts and exacerbate food insecurity in Nigeria. The frequent and violent extreme weather events, such as floods and heat waves and violent extreme weather events, ravage our economy, displace vulnerable populations, and overburden our strained infrastructure. Climate change poses an existential threat to our nation, continent, and indeed the entire world. It is a threat that exacerbates existing vulnerabilities and undermines our hard-won development gains. With urgency and determination, we must act now to address this very crisis.
All right, so we just heard that voice, and how would you react to his comment?
I agree with him in total. I agree with him completely. I was opportune to be in Bayelsa when the 2012 flood took place. Yes, and houses were submerged, roads were washed away, vehicles could not ply the road, and that was when His Excellency Honorable Saraki Dixon was the governor. So what he is saying, he's speaking from an informed perspective, and he's speaking from experience. He's speaking from the point of reality. Climate change, we have to take deliberate steps to make sure that issues of climate change, the negative impact of climate change, is addressed. Let me say, for instance, farmers-herders clashes. When what you are pursuing is also my target, there will definitely be a clash.
Yes.
What herders are looking for greener pastures for their herds, whereas the farmer himself is looking for increased yield. So if a herder takes his cows into the maize farm of a farmer, and then eats up the entire maize farm as forage for the cattle, who is paying for it? The farmer will not take it lightly that his entire effort in farming is taken away. So I agree with him in total.
Now, thank you very much for that contribution. Before we actually round off this conversation, as a member of the Nigerian Union of Teachers, is there any ongoing activity around climate change that you may want us to know about? Is there any special, activity? Even if I think you mentioned something on WhatsApp.
Yes.
So let's know what's
simply
happening.
put, the president of Nigerian Union of Teachers, Comrade Audu Titus Amba, he's passionate about climate change.
Amazing.
Anytime I bring before him issues of climate change, he would say, Barrister Okoroafor, approved.
Great.
Approved. So in NUT, we have this forum on climate change. We started with our NEC members. The NEC members is 4 times 37, 4 representatives from each state and the FCT, 4 of them by 37, you know the number.
Yes.
So, and we have that WhatsApp group and other channels by which climate developments, climate conceptual matters, right perspective that is science derived, is channeled, and then meetings and trainings are being proposed for NEC members, for teachers on climate change. So NUT is in fact leading the war against climate negative impacts of climate change.
Great. So I wanted to give one sentence to the audience out there. What do you think we should be doing right now? Or probably you need to give it to the teachers. What do you think that teacher out there needs to be doing right now as regards climate change or climate action?
My word to the teachers is protect your environment. Sanitation in your schools should be key. Plant flowers, plant trees, train the children to grow their own crops, even in their corridor, in their beside their car parks, and anywhere in the house, because one is a source of food. The vegetables are a source of food, and they're also carbon sink. They help to give you that oxygen you need and take in your carbon dioxide. Plant fruit-bearing trees. It will serve your economic purpose, and it will also satisfy your health needs. And if you love your family and the future generation, protect the environment. Plant trees, protect the trees. And then God said, go to the wall, increase and multiply and replenish the earth. Replenishing the earth doesn't only mean giving birth to children, but tender the trees and vegetation around you. They serve you a good purpose.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. That is the voice of Barrister Okoroafor Okechukwu. We really need to come back because this conversation, we've not even finished everything we're going to talk about, but because of time, we're going to have you for another episode, and we believe when we call you, you'd answer us.
By the grace of God, I will.
Thank you so much.
I love climate change. And I say, every listener, join us in the crusade in support of mitigating climate change.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. So we've come to the end of today's episode of Climate Fact File, and I want to thank our guests for your valuable insight to this amazing show today. Thank you so much, sir. And also to my producer, Miracle Festus, thank you. And to the executive producer of this show, Charles Kalu, thank you so much, sir. Remember, climate change is not just a future challenge, it's a present reality. And every one of us, we have a role to play in shaping a more sustainable future. Your small action today can lead to big changes tomorrow. So let's take what we've learned from this conversation and apply it to our daily lives. Join me next time for Climate Fact File here on People's 105.5 FM Abuja. I am Ife Onyekwere, and until next time, bye.
We inform, we educate, we entertain. We are the People's 105.5 FM Abuja.
you.